Welcome back to the corral. I couldn't resist doing a little bit of the special effects at the beginning of this episode because the two books that I'm going to recommend to you today lend themselves to that type of science fiction special effects. And I like playing with the computer anyway. But today we're going to talk about two very interesting books that I've been meaning to get to for a long time. I have so much, I mean to get to a lot, and sometimes it takes a little longer than I care to admit to get to some of these books that I'd like to recommend to you, especially for you collectors out there. So today it's science fiction. We're talking about two books by William Sloane, To Walk the Night and The Edge of Running Water. We're going to talk about these two books a little bit, and fair warning, there are some modest spoiler alerts here. So let's jump into it. William Sloane, 1906-1974. To Walk the Night was originally published in 1937. This is a 1956 reprint, I believe. And The Edge of Running Water this is a 1946 reprint. The books really took on a new life after World War II and certainly into the 1950s, where they were reprinted multiple times. Now, I'm telling you that right up front because this is interesting. In 1964, both of these books were reprinted yet again in one volume. That volume is called The Rim of Morning. And I think somewhere around 2004 or 5, that double volume was reprinted yet again in paperback with an introduction by Stephen King. That's the easiest copy for you to find on Amazon. And I would recommend, if you watch this episode and you're interested in looking for these books, you could find these old copies, and I have a paperback of To Walk the Night as well. You can find these old books on eBay and so forth, but if you're interested in reading them, I think your best bet financially would be to get the $15 to $18 paperback with Stephen King's introductory essay on Amazon. I wanted to get that out there because William Sloane has these are his only two books, and they have never gone out of print. I find that fascinating. He later became a publisher, William Sloane and Associates. I think somewhere in here I have one or two of the books that he published as a publisher, not written by him. These are his only two books. And I wanted to talk first about To Walk the Night, his first one, because, and I'll have up the hardcover. This is really a low-grade copy, by the way. I just mylar'd this, and really falling apart. I love these old dust jackets, but it's falling apart. And then this is kind of a low-grade paperback that I found as well. William Sloane, To Walk the Night. There is a picture of him on the back. Let's see if I can get that there. I didn't scan that. Sorry. So let's talk about To Walk the Night. So there are modest spoilers involved here. This book is told by Berkeley Jones, who's the narrator. First person. His nickname is Bark, and it's about him and his friend Jerry Lister. It comes down to this. This book is really well written, and when you read it, you won't think it was written in the late 30s. It's about these two friends, and they meet a woman through some circumstances who is down on her luck. She's wearing shoddy clothing, and Berkeley's friend Jerry immediately falls in love with her. She's beautiful. So he takes it upon himself to care for her, and he eventually marries her. So like I said, some modest spoiler alerts here. Her name is Selena. The issue is this. They can discover nothing about Selena. And she's on the back as well. Selena is a beautiful, exotic woman. And who is she? Where'd she come from? They can determine nothing about her. She doesn't have anything to say about it. She's enigmatic. She's a mystery, but she's so beautiful, and Jerry is so in love. But Berkeley, or Bark, as his nickname is suspicious, and he's caring for his friend. So he begins to investigate this, and he begins to pay attention to Selena's characteristics, her activities. It starts out, she's really slow. As time goes on, and after the marriage, she becomes an avid reader. She generally does not engage in small talk. She answers questions, and she will ask questions, but she doesn't engage in conversations the way normal people does. Jerry notices these things, but he's so in love with this beautiful woman that he's kind of blindsided by it. But Berkeley, Bark, is interested in uncovering more about her. It comes down to this. The woman named Selena is, and this is really kind of a major spoiler alert, although if you read the reviews, you'll get it. She is a human body that has been possessed by a consciousness from an unknown source. It is implied that this is otherworldly. The author never uses, he might use the word alien in a different context, but he doesn't say she's an alien. You get this by implication. And the suspense level continuously goes up throughout the book. Short book, fantastic. And what does this mean? What can they do about it? Why is she here? What does she want? As she develops, as her mind inhabited in this body develops, she demonstrates this acute intelligence, which is uncanny. She also has some abilities, like she knows when certain things might happen, and so forth. So Berkeley, again, Bark is his nickname in the book, he wants to know more. In his investigation, he discovers that the lovely Selena resembles, and I'm not going to give you all the circumstances, a woman who had disappeared, and her name had been Luella Jameson, and she had been what they call in the 1930s an idiot. Later on, they would use phrases like she was retarded. Today, they would say she's special needs. But she was an idiot in the sense she was totally incapable of helping herself. That turns out to be a major plot turn. And in regards to this, the questions always remain, what does this consciousness want? Why is the consciousness here? The question does come up, are there more of them? Where do they come from? What do they want? Why are they here? Where did she come from? So you can see this is the premise for the suspense level in the book, and it's beautifully, beautifully handled. I'm not going to tell you the resolution. I will tell you, I think the book is beautifully written. It almost has a journalistic style for the period. It is a page-turner. I don't think that there's one misplaced sentence or paragraph in the book. I think that all flows perfectly together as well it should. And it's one of my favorite science fiction books. And it is a science fiction book. It is science fiction before science fiction became popular. Now, by the time this book began to be reprinted, science fiction was taking off, especially after World War II. That is when science fiction really became a major genre. And, you know, it's pure terror. It's horrifying because you're guessing all the time. Again, the resolution is not necessarily cut and dry, but it's there. And it's the appropriate resolution. It does have a tragedy involved in it. And I think that if you take the time to read this, in whatever edition you can get, you'll really enjoy it. You know, if Stephen King is doing an introduction to a double volume of Sloane's books, his only 2 books, there's something to be said for the quality. So I don't really want to say much more about it. I probably have revealed too much about the plot. It's a short book. You know, I just think it's beautifully handled, and I think it's marvelous. It's a shame Sloane didn't write any more than the 2. So this one, I like them both equally. So this is To Walk the Night. These are the 2 editions that I have. And the next one is his second and final book, which is The Edge of Running Water. And this is the only edition that I own. which is I think I said this is the 56. Let's just double check that. I don't want to give you false information here. 55. This is the 1955 edition. This is fairly easily found on eBay, and it's not that expensive. I don't think it's rare, but I think it's scarce. I mean, it's, everything can be rare depending on how you look at it. On the back of this, it's really interesting because it says today's fiction, tomorrow's facts. 55, science fiction after World War II is really taking off as a genre. And it says on the back, Life magazine says there are more than 2 million science fiction fans in this country. From all corners of the nation comes the resounding proof that science fiction has established itself as an exciting and imaginative new form of literature that is attracting literally tens of thousands of new readers every year. Blah, 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 blah. So again, from the early days of science fiction's mass appeal, we're getting 2 books by William Sloane, who was ahead of his time. In the 1930s, he wrote these books, and when you read them, you would think they were written and published in the 50s. They were reprinted in the 40s and 50s. Again, that double volume's out there for you to find. So, The Edge of Running Water, totally different plot. So with this one, Dick tells the story, Richard, and he has a friend named Julian who his wife had died, and he can't get over it, and he wants to see her again. And in the beginning, I really thought and I feared that this was going to go down the path of the Frankenstein plot, where he would dig up the body and reanimate the corpse. That's not what happened at all. He never does that. Again, modest spoilers here. He is a physicist, and he wants to talk to her again. He wants to hear her voice. And so he works on interdimensional things, the science of which is vaguely represented in general terms throughout the book. He's an inventor and a physicist, and he discovers a way. He disappears, and then his friend Dick reconnects with him, at which point Julian's niece is there. Her name is Anne, and Dick falls in love with Anne. So this one does have a modest romantic subplot that actually works well for the book, because it engages him in different ways throughout the plot. He's trying to discover, Julian has called him to this remote location, and Julian wants his opinion on some things because they're both scientists. And Dick becomes suspicious of his friend and wants to uncover what exactly is he doing. He can't get over the death of his wife. It turns out he wants to hear her voice again, so he's created a machine that is accessing a portal to another world or another dimension. Of course, this is long before the term multiverse was coined by Michael Moorcock, but that's what he encounters, and that's there very much, and that becomes the crux of it. So he avoids very, very wisely, and I think skillfully, he avoids the Frankenstein plot of reanimating a corpse, and he gets into just hearing her voice again through physics and science, which is again kind of washed over, and it doesn't, and it's fine. It works well. This is another superbly written book. I really feel both of these books are just really very well written without a misplaced sentence or a paragraph, because it flows and you're getting there and you're flipping the pages. Again, short books. So the suspense level's real high. I'm not going to tell you the resolution of this. It is equally as tragic. But with both of the books, I say they're tragic. There's a little tragedy involved, but both of the books have the proper resolution that I really enjoyed reading. I was really surprised. Let me put it that way. It came across fine. I really love both of these books. I think they're just wonderful. There's also a subplot in here about small town prejudice and ignorance, because they're in a small town and they want to know what that scientist is doing up in that old remote house. That's kind of like the Frankenstein movies. That's really the only little minor plot device that resembles Frankenstein. Again, he very wisely avoided the reanimating the corpse, but he wants to hear her voice. I'm not going to tell you what happens, but it's chilling. It's chilling. It works well with the plot. And I think these are two gems that you can find in that double volume if you're interested in some classic old school science fiction suspense thrillers. These two books are wonderful. They're among my favorite books in this overflowing mess of pulp and dust and cobwebs and so forth that I surround myself with. This is my comfort zone, and these are two books that comfort me with their sterling approach to creative fiction and entertaining fiction. Right here, To Walk the Night and The Edge of Running Water. By the way, The Edge of Running Water, the title refers to the river that's nearby. That is part of the plot. I'm not going into it. You need to you need to read it. And To Walk the Night, this title refers to this consciousness that's out there. And how many more are there? I think I've given you the idea. I hope I have. I hope that some of you find it interesting enough that you'll track down that double volume that Stephen King wrote the essay to. By the way, I've not read that essay by Stephen King because I don't have that edition. I probably should pick it up because I would be interested in learning what Stephen King has to say about William Sloane. He obviously feels something about it, or else he would not have offered an introduction to the double volume of these two classic books. The only two books that William Sloane ever published. And he died in 1974, the year I graduated from high school. So anyways, these two are my recommendations for today. Little spooky stuff. I'm reading this stuff and you're thinking, someone looking over my shoulder, as these characters are always thinking that. Is there someone looking over my shoulder? What's really going on here? The universe is a big and scary place, What is that? What does it mean? I don't know. You gotta check it out, guys. Read the books, Anyways, until next time, stay well. Stay happy. Feed your beautiful minds. Feed your brains. Read some books by William Sloane. Thanks, everyone.